Palmerfest, yes. Yeah, I talk about it every now and then. I mean, being a graduate from Ohio University, if you're under the age of 50, then you know what it is. It's turned into a pretty big deal. And, I would like to high five all of those people that picked up the torch and carried it on. It's kind of like Halloween, right? Nobody owns it. But I'll tell you what I know about it.
From an undisclosed location somewhere on planet Earth, it's the Creative Life Podcast. Here is your host, Robb Jarrett.
So every year, the university would have, they would throw a music festival on the intramural fields down by the river, and it was called Springfest. It was a lot of fucking fun, man. Beer trucks, outnumbered food trucks, and it was rivaled only by Halloween weekend, during the late 80s. The 3 weekends prior to Springfest official were called Green Weekends, and they were on each of the universities at the Green. And there would be beer trucks, vendors, food trucks, and things. And they would set up on the commons area of each green. The first one would be east, the second one would be west, and the third one would be south. And then the money from all of that would get funneled to the Springfest committee, who was putting on this big show. It's kind of like our last big hurrah before we finished up with spring quarter and finals rolled in, which was typically very late May or early June. So in 1988, the university removed alcohol from the campus and all campus-sponsored events because the majority of the students were underage because Ohio had just adopted the new drinking age of 21. And this meant that events like Springfest, man, they had absolutely no chance of surviving the setback because the alcohol funds were so great. They tried. In 1989, they had the Hooters, and they were the main act. And as expected, sparsely attended. Writing was on the wall, man. Springfest was done. So the vibe amongst the students that year in 1989 was, well, Springfest is going to suck. So let's just say fuck it anyway and have big house parties to fill that void. And so they were getting planned. And because I was part of the Athens music community, I was sort of inside. I heard the inside info as to what was going on with everybody's house parties because they all needed, sound systems, DJ, bands, that kind of stuff. Now, the police got wind of the organizing that was going on, and they made a public notice put out a public notice about that all big parties would be heavily scrutinized and most likely shut down that weekend, that Saturday night, especially those with bands, because they were oftentimes the most difficult to manage as far as the numbers and the noise. All right, so my house was on 4 Palmer, and the girls that lived next door were at 6 and 6.5, and we decided to throw a party. So I spent several weeks and weekends prior to Fest Day, and I can't remember what the date was on that Saturday. I'm thinking the 19th or something, but, so I went out with my friends off and on, and we were just kind of collecting whatever kind of building materials we could find around campus to build a stage and do this up proper. So we built a stage behind 6 Palmer. There's a lot behind that house that people would park in that lived around there. And we pooled all of our money together and we purchased 16 kegs of beer, got a band, and started spreading the news. So what happened was that night of the party was that the cops were so busy dealing with all the parties that were taking place uptown and on the west side, up on West State and West Washington, and those places, that the bulk of them were over there, and they were leaving us alone down on Palmer Street. And at that time, man, Palmer was considered way out there. Not many people ventured down that far to do much of anything. So with the force that the police had that night, they were focused on other events and just sort of overlooked what we were doing down there. Now, our party started growing. and blowing up exponentially. It looked like, to visualize it, it looked like one of those time-lapse thunderstorms you would see on the Weather Channel where the clouds just roll in and it's just like, that is sort of the feeling that I got from it. You know, people were rolling in, sun goes down, stage lights come on, band goes on, and it was on. 16 kegs, man. 16 kegs was a big party for OU at that time. I don't know what a normal big college party does, but all of those 16 kegs were blowing foam at 9:30 p.m. That's how many people were there. And I thought to myself, when someone came up and said, "Hey man, we're out of beer," I thought, we are fucked proper. But the people rallied like bobcats do, and we went down to the drive-thru at the end of the road, into the street, Palmer Street, and emptied it. And as all the other parties were shutting down, they were rolling into our party. They were coming down the hill, coming down Mill, and just making that left turn onto Palmer, and it quickly felt way too big. And I knew I might have a problem when my dog showed up with a glow necklace on. And I asked my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, you know, what's this? What's this all about? And she said, well, there's two guys over there selling them. So a couple dudes that showed up with their extra things, their extra bootleg gear that they brought to sell at Springfest, which there was no one there, so they obviously didn't have anyone to sell it to. They found our party, opened up shop, and pretty much sold everything they had, you know, just the kind of knick-knacky party crap you would expect. So the cops showed up around 10 o'clock and took me off to the side, and they said, "We are reluctant to pull the plug on this because of the number of people here. So we need you to turn it down and contain." What they wanted me to do was keep everything out of the street for sure, and on the house side of the sidewalk. You could not be on the sidewalk. You could not be on the road. And they said, if you can do that, we'd like you to wrap it up by 11 o'clock. Because if we have to come back here at 11 o'clock, we're going to start arresting people. Well, the situation was, man, I knew they were coming back at 11, and they were coming back with a vengeance. They didn't have the force at that time when they first got to our place. They did not have the number of cops and the manpower they would have needed to shut that down should it had turned ugly. So we had a bit of a window. So I went to the band, got on the stage, explained to everybody, you got to stay on this side of the sidewalk, please, please, please. And turned to the band, turned around on stage, and I said, gentlemen, I need you to jump into the middle of your third set and crush it because we got to finish this up. And they crushed it. It wrapped up perfectly. As far as I'm aware, no one got arrested. We didn't get our deposit back from our landlord, Mike LaRue. My landlord's name was Mike LaRue. I believe he still has a real estate company down there. The bastard owes me a thank you for what he is able to charge for rent on that street right now. The landlord next door at 6 Palmer, Mr. Jeeves, I don't think he ever got over the fact that his hibiscus got stomped to oblivion. And anyone that ever had to hear him rant about those fucking bushes, man, they know how funny that is. So that's what I know about Palmerfest. Take it to the bank.